So welcome back, everybody. My name is Paul. I've been making this series about our star system Sirius. That is a favorite of many tales and ancient mythologies and so on. And it is now becoming more and more clear to a lot of people who research this that we are actually in a binary system with the star Sirius. And in addition to that, actually Sirius is a whole system. There's at least one other star there, a very powerful system, and it covers a vast amount of space. It's about 8 light years away from us, and it's heading in our direction. And that means that we are on the way to joining back up with Sirius, and it's not going to happen anytime real soon. But what happens here is the star system Sirius is over here, for example, at the Dark Ages. And at that point, the Sun system with our Earth is way over here. Now, this continues to move around and back and forth, and at the point when this starts to move back closer, as we are now, it apparently turned about 2,000 years ago, and it started to come back this way. So we are at a point now, we are getting closer and closer to an accelerated meeting up with this star system. Now, it's not going to happen in our lifetimes. We know that. But what happens is, just the way light works, for example, in the summer and the fall, and the sun goes down a little earlier and earlier and earlier, and next thing you know, all the planets just immediately switch off. They just start doing their thing, and that's what they're doing because they're affected by the light. Light, in esoteric cosmology, is life. So if you see light, there's some kind of life in the sense of consciousness. And consciousness has a huge range of expressions. A lot of people wonder, well, are there any other kinds of beings? Because we think about angels perhaps, or, aliens or whatever. But the ancient people said, you're never going to really be able to answer that question about whether there are other beings or not unless you know who you are. And the way you know who you are, there's ways to know that based on ancient teachings and meditation. But there is a symbolism that as above, so below. So that if what we know in ourselves, we can know the above, and what we find out about the above can reflect back on what we have inside us. And we can learn. And I'm going to run through some terminology here because I have a 9-minute limit here, basically 9.5 minutes. And I decided to just run with it. I'm going to cut this up later, because there's a lot to cover here, and a lot of people, I think you're going to find this very valuable. I draw my information from a lot of my research and studies over the years. Not everybody wants to read a lot of big fat books like this and meditate and everything, but that's what I do. And the beauty of the internet is that I can share what I know, and other people can share, and we can all have a very fast understanding. That's what light does. Exactly. What happens is we get understanding, and bingo, something goes off in our brain. So what I'm trying to do here is explain some of this ancient cosmology. And basically what I'm going to run through some terminology here. The great breath, the in-breathing and the out-breathing, the involution and the evolution. Every single thing moves in a cycle. Everything. If you understand the nature of cycles, you'll understand how the solar system works, how the galaxy works. So, what happens is, in the process of creation, the fact that we are here, a lot of people don't really think about this very much. You walk about your day and so on. You say, well, I'm just doing my thing, and I know, I'm just like blood and water and so on, but I've got this thing. But we don't understand really how fantastic and amazing it is that we are walking around conscious. We can heal, we can see, we can perceive, we can understand ourselves in the cosmos. It's a fantastic thing, and there's a machinery that how that works. And you have to think about some broad concepts, because naturally it's very complicated. But the beauty of the system is that there's a lot of obvious things and simplicity in the way the cosmos works and how we work. I'm going to go over some of these things now. Now keep these terms in mind, because I'm going to talk about some of them later. Transmigration, exchange of energy, life moves through different cycles even while we're physically alive. We know that every 7 years or so, I don't know what they say about a lot of the systems in our body, we have new skin, we have new hair, we have new teeth, we have, I mean not teeth, but we have new toenails and so on, and all that stuff is regenerating on a constant basis. It's all based on cycles, the rhythms of life. This is a great book here. And all this was known to the ancient people because they meditated, they had insight, and they watched, and they shared, and they kept records, and they designed amazing systems, which I'm going to go into here. And I have some tarot cards in my hand here that are very fascinating. Whoever put this stuff in the tarot together was just absolutely genius, because there's so much. They're not for fortune telling. I mean, people use them for that, but there's a whole incredible amount of information if you understand the nature of the symbols and what they're saying. Now, here's some more terms. Akasha. Akasha is like light. Akasha, the people say the Akashic records. There's some kind of something in this universe that holds the impressions of what's going on. There's like a nerve. Like we have a body, our body has a nerve. The nerve does a function. The nerve has to do with our awareness, our brain functions, some communication. That's what nerves have to do with. And the same way there are substances out in the universe that have a function in how consciousness spreads across the universe. Now, I wrote here, new light is life. Life and light are synonymous in esoteric teachings. Now, again, there's very different kinds of light, and there's some kind of light that is sort of like more on the decaying side. Just like we have mushrooms in the sense of a physical substance that decays, we also have various kinds of light patterns that can actually erode and decay, and it's very complicated. But if we're far away from our companion star, our mother star, this was worshipped as the goddess who brought love and light and nourished and brought all the blessings, and just so because it has some kind of an energy that's at least, this Sirius system is probably I think at least 10 times, and probably a magnitude of many times more powerful than the solar system. That's why we're going fast around. We're going on a 24,000 year cycle. And Sirius is also got some place where it's slowly spinning around. And again, spinning is a very important concept. But I'm going to get into this here for a second. When something spins and it also moves, it traces out a pattern. Maybe some people are familiar with the spirograph. These patterns of motion are harmonious spins, you might say. And spin has to do with life-giving rotation. Rotation, spin, sets up energy activity when something starts to spin. Now, again, this is very fascinating. I find out that rotation, tarot, Torah, something they're trying to communicate about what spin does, and it has patterns that it generates, and those patterns create the very forms that we live in. Our bodies, our solar systems, our galaxies, everything is created by those things. Now, I'm going to show these tarot cards here in the next segment here, but there's one in particular here, the 21st card. It has what they call a Vesica Piscis there, and it has this golden being just popping out. It's got wands. It's just amazing. Just everything is fantastic. And it has the man, the eagle, the lion, and the bull. The four corners, which are the fixed signs, which are the pillars, which are the anchors, which are the stabilizing motion, they call it. When the stabilizing motion is one of three different types of motion. There's an active motion, a stimulating motion, there's a sustaining motion, and then there's a decaying motion. And the sustaining motions are ones that study us. And that's why this is the card where she pops out and everything is just absolutely fine, everything's in balance and stabilized. Now,